Hello guys, welcome back to our introduction to programming with Python series. So in this video, we're going to be looking at anonymous function in Python. So if you're coming from other programming languages like Java, we also have things like anonymous functions over there. But in here, they are called Lambda functions in short. So they're called Lambda functions. So if you're coming from Java or other programming language, you probably came across this anonymous or Lambda functions, okay? But in Python, they're called Lambda functions or anonymous. In general, in programming, they're called anonymous function. In Python specifically, they're called Lambda functions. So let's look at how you can work with Lambda functions in Python. So basically they're called anonymous functions because these functions do not have names. So let me just go ahead and create a file. This is going to be part 25 here. So I'm going to create a file. It's going to be part underscore 25.py. So in part 25.py, what you're going to go ahead and do, let me just keep a comment here. This is going to be lambda functions in Python. So we have that. Okay. So how does the syntax of lambda functions go? So they're called lambda functions or anonymous functions typically because these functions do not have names. Okay, you can store them in variables, but these functions do not have names. That's why they're called lambda functions, okay, or no anonymous functions. So the syntax of them being the following. So you say lambda, use the lambda keyword, and then you pass in arguments. Arguments could be one argument or multiple arguments. So you can and then you have colon, and then finally you have an expression of what your function does. So that's basically the syntax for a lambda function. So let's see how you can create a simple lambda function. Let's say this function will say hello underscore say underscore hello is going to be equals to so you're going to say lambda, and it's going to be lambda over print, and you're just going to go and say hello world. Okay, that's basically it. So how do we call this lambda function? You can just go here and say hello and then call it like they will usually call a function. So that's basically it. So once you call this function, it's going to go into this lambda function. We take in no expression, like no arguments or no parameters. We just simply go ahead and printing hello world. So if I go ahead and clear the terminal and do python 3, and this is going to be part 25.py, and then run that, you can see we get back hello world, right? So that's how a lambda function basically works. So let's see how you can pass in actual arguments with. Let me just comment out this part because you're not taking any arguments. So I'm just going to have another function, say underscore hello, say hello underscore 2, right? You're going to take a person's name that you're going to say hello to. So you say lambda, you're going to take an argument to called name, and what you're going to do is say print, and you're going to use an f string, and we covered f strings in introduction to our strings in Python. Yeah, so I'm just going to say hello, and then finally we go ahead and use the f string here, and we pass in name. Good, that's all that we need to do. So I can call this function, say hello underscore 2, and then to pass in, let's say print. So pass in prints, and now if I run this function, it's going to go ahead and pass in prints as name, and it's going to say hello and then my name, which is going to be prince. So if I run the code, we get hello print. So those are lambda functions in Python. Again, I don't want to go into depth about lambda functions. They're just anonymous functions in Python, and you can use them basically like this. You can accept multiple arguments if you want, but I'm just going to keep it simple and try to experiment on your own and accept multiple arguments and use instead of your lambda functions. So they are used in Python, but not greatly. From my experience, I don't see them being used greatly, but it's important that you know that they exist in case you go anywhere and come across them. You can know what they do, right? So that's basically it for this video. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Again, if you're new to the channel, please kindly consider subscribing, liking this video, and sharing this content with anyone who you think might find it helpful. So thank you, and keep safe.